Hello everyone, and welcome back to Hidden Korea. Thank you for joining us today. Because we're about to dive into a story that has taken the entire K-entertainment world by surprise. Today's headline is one that no one expected. His father used one word about Park Eun-bin, and it left the entire set speechless. What was that word? Why did it shock the cast, the staff, and even Raun himself? And what really happened behind the scenes that made this moment go viral across KBs? Stay with us. The truth behind this stunning revelation starts right now. The atmosphere on the set of the new drama project was already charged with intensity. The production had entered its final, most difficult phase, and the pressure was mounting on every actor, staff member, and crew member involved. But no one could have predicted that the moment that would shake the entire studio to its core would come not from the script, nor from a performance, but from a single unexpected visitor: Raun's father. It happened on a day packed with emotional scenes. Park Eun-bin had just finished shooting a particularly demanding sequence, a confrontation filled with raw vulnerability and heart-piercing lines. Everyone in the studio felt the weight of her performance. Silence stretched across the room as the director whispered a quiet cut, his eyes shimmering with a kind of awe that only comes from witnessing art at its purest form. Crew members exchanged glances. Some quietly exhaled, as though they had been holding their breath from the moment the cameras began rolling. She had delivered something breathtaking. Hyun, who was standing just off camera preparing for his next scene, watched Eun-bin with a mixture of admiration and concentration. He knew how difficult that moment was. He knew how emotionally destructive the role could be. He also knew that matching her intensity would require everything he had. But the moment of quiet admiration was shattered when a soft, familiar voice echoed from the other side of the studio. That was extraordinary. Heads turned. Crew members straightened. A few whispered. Raun's father had stepped inside the soundstage. His appearance had not been announced. He was not scheduled. In fact, Raun himself seemed surprised, blinking rapidly before walking over with a hesitant half-smile. The crew, recognizing the elder man from past anecdotes, bowed in greeting. There was something dignified about him, a quiet presence, a thoughtful aura. The kind of posture that commanded attention without ever demanding it. He greeted the director politely, spoke briefly with a few staff members, and then his gaze drifted, inevitably, toward Park Eun-bin, who was wiping stray tears from her cheeks after finishing her scene. She smiled politely and bowed. He returned the gesture. The studio grew strangely still. It was then, in that sudden hush, that Raun's father uttered the one word that would ripple through the entire production team. One word. Softly spoken, but powerful enough to freeze the room. Unbreakable. At first, no one moved. No one reacted. It wasn't immediately clear who he was referring to, or why that particular word had been chosen. The lighting crew paused mid-motion. The sound team stared at each other. Even the director, usually calm and unfazed, blinked in genuine confusion. Then, slowly, Raun's father continued speaking. His voice gentle but firm. I've watched many performances in my life, but what she just did, that is the work of someone unbreakable. Park Eun-bin's expression changed. Her breath hitched for a moment. Even Raun seemed stunned, his jaw shifting slowly as he processed the impact of the word. It wasn't merely a compliment, it was a declaration, a recognition. And coming from someone who rarely spoke publicly about acting. The weight of those words was heavier than anyone expected. The director later admitted that the moment felt like time itself had stopped. Crew members described an almost electric shock that moved through the set. Some felt emotional without understanding why. Others simply stood frozen, the word echoing inside them long after it was spoken. But the moment didn't end there. Because immediately after Raun's father spoke, something unexpected happened. Park Eun-bin, normally poised and composed, blinked rapidly as if fighting back another wave of tears, not from the scene, not from exhaustion, but from the overwhelming sincerity of what she had just heard. Thank you, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Raun's father nodded once, a small smile touching his lips. That word suits you, he said quietly. You carry strength the way others carry fear. The studio buzzed with a silent intensity. Staff members darted glances at each other. Whispers began spreading like wildfire. What did he mean? Was it about her performance? Was it about her character? Or was it something deeper? No one knew. But everyone felt the shock. And as the crew prepared for the next scene, something else happened, something even more surprising. Something that triggered speculation, rumors, and a level of curiosity the production had never experienced before. Hyun approached his father and asked a simple question. That word. His father answered with a mysterious smile. You'll understand when you finish the last episode. The room went silent again. What did he mean? What did he know? How could he possibly know anything about the final episode? Whispers intensified. Crew members exchanged uneasy looks. Bin herself stiffened, sensing that the word unbreakable might not have been a casual remark at all. Because the truth was, Hyun's father had read something. Something he wasn't supposed to read. Something that would change everything. And that was only the beginning. White Medium Star Part 2, 5,000 characters, escalation. Revelations, tension erupting. After the shock of the single word settled over the set like a dense fog, the atmosphere shifted. It was subtle at first, a lingering tension. A whisper of anticipation. The feeling that everyone was waiting for something they couldn't quite name. But by midday, the unease had grown into a full-blown, silent storm. Something was different. Hyun seemed distracted, glancing occasionally at his father with an expression that blended confusion, suspicion, and a hint of concern. Bin remained professional, but there was a new heaviness in her eyes whenever she prepared for a scene. As if that one word had cracked open a part of her character she had not planned to confront so soon. The director called for a short break, hoping to restore balance, but instead, the tension only escalated when a production assistant rushed onto the set holding a sealed envelope. There's a problem, she whispered to the director. In the envelope, his face paled. The script. But not just any script page, a confidential revision of episode 16, the final episode. One that only the director, head writer, producers had access to. Someone had slipped it onto the set. Bin and Hyun exchanged glances. The staff murmured among themselves. And then the director turned slowly toward Hyun's father. Sir, he said carefully. This page, where did you find it? Hyun's father took a breath, deep, steady, deliberate, and pulled another folded page from his coat. I found this lying outside the studio, he said calmly. Someone must have dropped it. A lie. Everyone felt it. But his tone was too composed for anyone to challenge him openly. He handed the second page to the director, who unfolded it with trembling fingers. It wasn't the final episode. It was the character analysis sheet for Park Eun-bin's role, a document detailing emotional arcs, hidden motivations, secret plot twist meant to be revealed only in the last 3 episodes. And at the bottom of the page, circled in red ink, the word unbreakable. Park Eun-bin inhaled sharply. Hyun stared at his father in disbelief. The production team buzzed like shaken hornets. It wasn't coincidence. This wasn't a casual remark. This wasn't a comment from an impressed visitor. Hyun's father had read the confidential document, not just read it, but understood it deeply enough to extract the essence of her character and condense it into one perfect, devastating word. A word he spoke directly to her. A word he spoke before anyone else knew he had seen the documents. A word that revealed more than he should have known. Breakable. The director's expression hardened as realization settled over him. Hyun's father hadn't stumbled upon the page. He had been searching for something. And the reason soon became painfully, shockingly clear. Because what none of them knew, not the cast, not the crew, not even the screenwriter, was that Hyun's father had once been a consultant for the drama's original development team. He had access to early drafts, early storylines, and early character backstories, including the version of Park Eun-bin's character that never made it into the public script. He knew her secret. He knew her pain, her breaking point, and how she surpassed it. He knew she was unbreakable before anyone else did. The room didn't fully erupt until the director asked, very quietly, "Sir, did you read the newest ending?" His father didn't deny it. He simply nodded once. Park Eun-bin's heartbeat thundered in her ears. Hyun's jaw tightened. The staff collectively inhaled as the truth began to sink in. Hyun's father hadn't simply complimented her. He had revealed something. Something that wasn't meant to be spoken yet. Unbreakable, he repeated. The world will understand that word when the final scene airs. Shivers ran through the set. The actor's hands trembled. Park Eun-bin stared at him, speechless. What final scene? What ending? And then Raoun's father delivered the final, devastating blow. She won't just survive the story, he said softly. She will redefine it. Silence. Chaos. Crew members scrambled. Phones buzzed. Ignited like wildfire. What did he mean? What did he know? Why did he speak as though he carried the future in his hands? And above all, why did his one word leave an entire professional production frozen in shock? The answer remained hidden. But one thing was painfully clear. The only thing more powerful than Park Eun-bin's performance was the truth her character had yet to reveal. Studio didn't return to normal after Raoun's father dropped that final, haunting line. If anything, the air became heavier, like a storm gathering just beyond the horizon, waiting for the slightest spark to ignite. No one dared speak loudly. No one dared move too quickly. Everyone sensed they were standing at the edge of something monumental, and the next step would send them into freefall. Hyun tried to speak with his father, but the older man simply placed a hand on his shoulder and whispered, "You're not ready to hear it yet." Then he excused himself, leaving the set with the same calmness with which he had entered, but the damage had been done. The word unbreakable now pulsed through the production like a heartbeat, echoing against the walls, inside the actors' minds, and within the script pages themselves. And for Park Eun-bin, the effect was even more profound. As she prepared for her next scene, she found herself staring at her reflection in the dressing room mirror. Her eyes were still red-rimmed from earlier. There was something else there now, something fierce. Most frightening. The word clung to her like a shadow. Unbreakable. Just a compliment. It was a prophecy. A warning. A truth she hadn't asked for but now couldn't escape. The assistant director knocked on the door and told her they were ready. She inhaled deeply and walked back toward the set, only to find chaos unfolding. The head writer had just discovered the leak. She stormed onto the soundstage, waving the confidential episode 16 page in the air. Her expression a mix of fury and panic. "Who touched this? Who opened it?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "Only 3 people are supposed to see this before final review." 3. Her eyes swept over the crew. On Raoun, then on Park Eun-bin, then finally on the empty space where Raoun's father had been standing. "Did he read this?" she whispered sharply to the director. The director didn't answer. That silence was all the confirmation she needed. The writer's face paled as a horrifying realization dawned on her. "Then he knows," she murmured. "He knows what we're building toward. He knows the final twist." As when Raoun stepped forward, tension etched into every line of his face. "What final twist?" he demanded. "Ending. Why does everyone know something I don't?" The writer hesitated, not because she didn't want to tell him, but because she couldn't. There were rules. Tracks, protocols. Revealing the final twist could jeopardize the entire show. But the secrecy only aggravated the situation. Park Eun-bin watched the scene unfold. Pounding. She could feel the truth circling her like smoke. Something enormous, something devastating, was closing in. The writer took a step back, her voice low with dread. "There's a reason your father used that word." He wasn't describing Eun-bin's performance. He was describing her ending. A ripple tore through the room. Raoun froze. Eun-bin's breath caught. The crew drew closer without realizing it. "What ending?" Eun-bin managed to whisper. The writer's eyes softened, with pity. "You don't survive episode 16. Silence detonated like a bomb. Eun-bin stared, unable to process the words. "My character dies." But the writer shook her head. "Not dies. Breaks. Shatters. Loses everything. Doesn't physically die, but emotionally." She paused, her throat tightening. "There's nothing left of her by the end." A stunned gasp traveled through the set. Raoun's eyes widened, pooling inside him. "And you didn't tell us?" "You didn't tell her." "Only way to protect the performance," the writer whispered. Needed every reaction to be real. Every ounce of fear. Tremor, every tear. Eun-bin's knees threatened to give way. The room tilted. The weight of the ending she was never supposed to see until the moment of filming, crashed over her like a tidal wave. Unbreakable. The word suddenly twisted into something cruel. Tragic, almost poetic. Her character wasn't unbreakable because she was strong. She was unbreakable because she had to endure the unimaginable. Because she had to keep standing when everything inside her collapsed. But the twist wasn't over. Because Raoun's father returned. He entered through the side door. Silent as a shadow. Everyone turned to him instantly. His expression was different now, solemn, resolute. Carrying a truth too heavy to ignore. He walked straight to Park Eun-bin. I use that word, he said quietly. Because you need to understand what you're about to face. She swallowed hard. What do you mean? He held her gaze, steady and unwavering. Ending is not what breaks you, he said. It's what comes after. Shiver crawled up her spine. Raoun stepped forward protectively. Father. Stop speaking in riddles. But the older man shook his head. Final script isn't just tragic, he continued. It rewrites everything. Every scene. Every relationship. Every choice your characters made. His eyes drifted between them. Your final confrontation. He took a deep breath. Is not between the two of you. Confusion rippled through the room. It's between her. Pointed to Eun-bin. And the truth this story has been hiding from the very beginning. And whispered, what truth? He answered with the one sentence that shattered every soul inside the studio. You were never the heroine of this story. You were the sacrifice. The room erupted. Gasps. Shouts. Shock. Someone dropped their headset. A camera operator whispered, my God. Bin felt her heart crack, not as an actress. A human being absorbing the weight of a destiny she didn't choose. Hyun turned to his father, eyes blazing. You had no right. Had every right, the father interrupted calmly. Because you, Raoun, are the one who destroys her. The world stopped. Eun-bin's breath vanished. Every crew member froze. Raoun's face drained of color. And in that one devastating moment, everyone understood. The word unbreakable was not a compliment. A warning. And the story was about to descend into darkness deeper than anyone had ever imagined. As the studio lights dimmed and the chaos slowly settled, the truth remained suspended in the air like a lingering storm. The story was never just a script. It was a battle of choices. Secrets, sacrifices, and revelations that none of them were prepared to confront. Park Eun-bin stood at the center of the set, shaken, exhausted, but no longer defeated. The word unbreakable echoed through her. No longer as a warning, but as a vow. She would face the final scene. Would endure the ending designed to shatter her. But she would not break. Raoun stepped beside her. The weight of the real ending crashing against him like a tidal wave. The role he was meant to play, the destroyer of her character, now felt heavier than any performance he had ever given. In that fragile moment, they shared a quiet, unspoken truth. Whatever the script demanded. Whatever twist the network forced. Her emotional storm awaited them in episode 16. They would confront it together. The set fell silent. Cameras powered down. But the story, with all its shadows and secrets, was far from over. And somewhere deep in the heart of K Entertainment, the final twist waited, unseen, unspoken, inevitable. Thank you, viewers, for joining us on this intense and emotional journey through one of the most shocking behind-the-scenes stories in K Entertainment. Your excitement, curiosity, and support keep Hidden Korea alive, pushing us to uncover the secrets, truths, and twists that shape the industry from the shadows. Because more revelations, more mysteries, and more unforgettable stories await. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode of Hidden Korea.